Dear Chosen One, before you keep scrolling, I need 10 minutes of your attention. Because somewhere inside you, there's a wound you've been carrying so long. You've almost forgotten it's still bleeding. And today, I believe this message was sent to start the healing you've been avoiding. Let me ask you something honestly. How many times have you replayed the same painful memory in your mind this week? The betrayal, the rejection, the words someone said that you can't seem to unhear, the mistake you made that you still haven't forgiven yourself for. Dear Chosen One, I want you to know something today. You are allowed to stop reliving it. You are allowed to close that chapter even if it never got the ending you thought it deserved. Here's something painful but true. Some people are waiting for closure that is never going to come. They're waiting for an apology that will never be spoken. They're waiting for someone to finally admit they were wrong. And while they wait, they stay chained to a moment that the other person has probably already forgotten. Chosen One, I want to free you from that today. You do not need their apology to begin healing. You do not need their permission to move forward. Your healing was never supposed to depend on someone else's willingness to give it to you. Let me tell you about two men who were both wounded. The first man carried his wound like a badge, showing it to everyone who would look, letting it define every conversation, every relationship, every decision. He became known for his pain. The second man also carried a wound, but instead of displaying it, he tended to it. He let it scar over. And one day, people didn't see his wound anymore. They saw his strength. They saw someone who had survived something and come out the other side wiser, softer, and somehow more alive than before. Chosen One, you get to choose which of these men you become. Your pain is real, but your pain does not have to become your identity. I know forgiveness feels impossible some days, especially when the wound is still fresh, especially when the person who hurt you shows no remorse at all. So let me clarify something because I think this gets confused too often. Forgiveness is not saying what happened to you was okay. It is not saying you have to trust that person again. It is not even about them at all. Forgiveness is you deciding that you are no longer going to let something from your past control your present. It is releasing the rope you've been using to drag that pain everywhere you go. Think about how heavy that must be. Dragging something behind you every single day, for months, for years sometimes. No wonder you're tired. No wonder you feel like you have less energy for the good things in your life right now. Some of your exhaustion isn't from your current circumstances. It's from something you've been carrying long after its season ended. So today, right where you are, I want you to do something. I want you to imagine that rope in your hand. And I want you to imagine setting it down, not throwing it far away in anger. Just setting it down gently and stepping forward without it. You don't have to forget what happened. You just don't have to keep carrying it into every new day. If this is speaking to you, hit that like button and subscribe, because healing isn't a one-time event. It's a journey, and I want to walk more of it with you. Let's talk about the shame that so many of you carry silently, the mistake from years ago, the decision you made that you think disqualifies you from grace. Chosen One, hear me clearly. Your past mistake is not a life sentence. It was a chapter, not the whole book. God does not require you to be perfect before He uses your life for something beautiful. In fact, some of the most powerful stories in history come from people who once thought they had ruined everything, only to discover that their lowest moment became the very testimony that would help someone else survive theirs. There's a difference between conviction and condemnation. Conviction says, that was wrong, let's grow from it. Condemnation says, you are wrong, you'll never be anything else. One leads you forward. The other keeps you frozen in shame forever. If you've been living under condemnation, I want to gently remind you today, that voice was never the truth. You are not your worst moment. You are not the mistake you can't stop thinking about at 2 a.m. You are someone still being written, still being redeemed, still worthy of a future that looks nothing like your past. Let's talk about the people who hurt you, because I know some of you are still angry. And honestly, anger sometimes makes sense. But I want you to consider something. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. They've likely moved on with their life while you're still replaying the scene. still rehearsing what you should have said, still letting them occupy space in your mind rent-free. Chosen one, evict them, not because they deserve peace from you, but because you deserve peace. Period. I also want to talk about the version of healing nobody shows you on social media. It doesn't look like a sudden breakthrough where you wake up one morning completely fine. Real healing looks messy. It looks like doing well for 2 weeks and then having one bad night where the memory hits you out of nowhere and knocks the wind out of you again. That doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean you're back at square one. Healing is not a straight line. It's more like walking up a staircase in the dark. Sometimes you stumble. Sometimes you feel like you slipped backward. But as long as you keep climbing, you're still moving upward, even on the nights it doesn't feel that way. I want you to be patient with yourself, the way you'd be patient with someone you love. If your closest friend came to you still hurting from something that happened years ago, would you tell them to just get over it already? Or would you sit with them gently and remind them that healing takes as long as it takes? Extend that same grace to yourself today. You are not behind. You are not broken beyond repair. You are simply still in the process, and the process is sacred, even when it's slow. Here's your declaration for today. Say it quietly or out loud if you're ready. I release what I cannot change. I forgive not because it was okay, but because I refuse to let it own me any longer. My past does not disqualify my future. I am healing, I am growing, and I am becoming who I was always meant to be, one day at a time. I want to remind you of something about scars, because I think we misunderstand them. A scar is not a sign of weakness. A scar is proof that something tried to break you and failed. It's proof that healing happened, even if the mark remains. You don't have to be ashamed of your scars, chosen one. Some of the most beautiful people you'll ever meet are the ones who let their pain become compassion instead of bitterness. They know how to sit with someone in their darkest moment, because they've been there too. Your wound, once healed, might become exactly what someone else needs to survive their own. Before you go, I want you to do one thing. Think of the heaviest thing you've been carrying, the one thing you've never said out loud to anyone. And just for today, I want you to whisper to yourself, I'm allowed to let this go. You don't have to solve it all today. You just have to take the first step of putting it down. And I also want to leave you with this. One day, and I mean this, one day you are going to look back at this exact season of pain, and you are going to see it differently than you see it right now. You'll see the friend who stayed. You'll see the lesson you never would have learned any other way. You'll see the compassion you gained that you didn't have before. You'll see how it built in you a kind of patience and depth that easy seasons never could have taught you. Pain, when it's finally healed, has a strange way of becoming purpose. What almost destroyed you quietly becomes the very thing that helps you understand and comfort someone else who is standing exactly where you once stood. If someone in your life is also carrying a weight they haven't spoken about, send them this video. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do for someone we love is remind them healing is actually possible. Subscribe if this message reached you today, so the next one finds you too, right when you need it most. You are not what happened to you. You are not your worst mistake. You are chosen. You are being healed. And your story is far from over. Until next time, walk in peace.